Through our research here in the UK, non-domestic buildings in particular equate to some 108 million tonnes of CO2 emissions a year, and the office environment is actually a significant contributor to that number.
I think carbon is a big issue because it is a proxy for environmental performance. You know, it's a realisation that amongst all the resources that we are consuming, carbon is the one that's relatively easy to measure. So it's the carbon in the fuel or carbon in the body, embodied carbon in materials and so on. The
government has clearly set out targets to reduce UK CO2 emissions by 80% by 2050 based on a 1990 baseline.
There is a realisation that the days of cheap energy are numbered. And the thing that will shape the office is not the operational footprint of the office, but the ability to get staff and get them to the office.
You've got low carbon in design. And that's almost the beginning and the end of the story so far as the regulatory regime is concerned through the building regulations. But actually, this is where the problems start. And this is where you risk seeing the gap between the performance as you hope to from the design, the performance after construction, the performance after commissioning, and the performance in use over the life of the building. Each of those steps contain either the opportunity to get as close to design standards as possible or the opportunity to let things slip. And the general way of thinking at the moment is there's too big a gap between the performance of the building in use and the performance that people who design those buildings hope that building could achieve.
Fundamentally, I think sustainability is all about people. It's not really about saving the planet. It's about saving us and saving our lifestyle and saving our ability to control what we want and our preferences and our ability to buy things and so on.
The way I would look at the Office of 2030 is, seeing as 2/3 of the buildings out there today are going to be around in 2050, more likely than not, it's going to be the same buildings that you can see today. So the futuristic idea that it's going to be a miraculous new style, new architecture, and everything will be the exception. I'm not saying it's not going to be there at all, it'll be the exception. Where the average guy will turn up to work in 2030 will be rather similar in terms of the built environment that we see today, because those buildings have still got considerably number of decades of good asset life and yield life to do before you demolish them or before you change of use or whatever they do.
I think an Office of 2030 is going to be smaller scale. It's going to be closer to where people live or where they want to live. I think it's going to be not necessarily owned by your employer, and I think it's going to address a lot of the sort of social needs of the workplace.
I would like to think my office was very resource efficient. I'd like to see energy consumption very low.
I think we're heading for, certainly in the sort of time horizon to 2030, we're heading for more and more carbon constrained future, where the cost of carbon will become more and more significant as a trading cost for businesses.
What is the actual occupancy of these buildings going to be in 2030? Is it that you've got 100,000 square feet, which could take, I don't know, let's say 500 people, maybe a bit more, but actually only 350 turn up on average every day. So what on earth are you doing paying rent for a building you don't need? And that's going to start coming in now. You're going to get this area where I suspect you're going to get sets of core accommodation and you're going to get spillover or overspill accommodation.